Hoops Heaven proudly brings to you Basketball Hustle, featuring your hosts, the writer, Chris Pike, and the scoring machine, Shawn Redhage. Now it's time for another episode of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle.
Hello and welcome to a special round 2 edition of Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle, and things are moving quickly. Hardly a day in between games here of the NBL season already. We're seeing some interesting results, some exciting action, some double overtime games, some games decided on the buzzer, and now all of a sudden we're just days away from every team getting involved. So we've got the New Zealand Breakers about to get their season underway. The Perth Wildcats are about to do the same this weekend. Plenty to talk about here on this week's Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle. I'm Chris Pike, your co-host, but the scoring machine, the four-time NBL championship winning legend, the Perth Wildcats superstar, Shawn Redhage. Special day for you, which we will touch on during this show. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Pikey. It's good to see some basketball back in action, and we had some exciting games over the week, so I'm excited to review them and then get into this week's games as well.
Absolutely. Plenty to talk about. Across those games on the weekend in round 1, there was some thrilling action, some standout performers, and we'll get to all of that as we get through this show, because we'll be deciding our first ever Player of the Week here on Basketball Hustle. We'll be casting our votes in our Player of the Year voting as well, and of course later in the show, our TABtouch preview, and you, Shawn, and Damien Martin will be joining us. You'll be announcing the charities that you're going to be raising money for with the help of TABtouch during this season. You'll be offering some betting tips for our listeners, and you'll be putting your reputations on the line up against each other in this competition, which will be running through the season to raise money for your charities. And also, we'll give all of our tips and thoughts on the round ahead once we get Damien Martin on the line later on. But first of all, Shawn, there's a lot that happened in round 1. What stood out to you? What's the one takeaway that you took from the opening round of the NBL season?
Well, look, I think the team of the round was definitely the Hawks. Just the way they played, and Brian Goorjian. We said it in the previews. You can't knock a guy with the record that he has, even though he's coming into a club that's had a couple down years. He's done a masterful job already in the preseason, and it's showing. And I think they've got the recruiting right, and they played extremely well in that first round.
Yeah, you're right. Let's touch on them a bit further, because you've played under Brian Goorjian at the Olympics, and he's had a big impact on your life, because if he wasn't the coach, who knows? You might not have ever been able to call yourself an Olympian. And I'm fascinated to get Brian on the show at some point this season, just for you to catch up with him and to have a chat to him about your history and what's happening, obviously, right now at the Hawks. What makes Gorge such a special coach? Because you have a look at this Hawks team, talent-wise, they might not still, have the talent level of some of the other clubs, but gee, they're playing with heart, they're well coached, they're well drilled, and everyone knows their role on that team.
Yeah, I think probably from the outside, I guess when I kind of came up against Brian Goorjian teams and just talking to some of the players, that it was, he was just this taskmaster that, worked his guys extremely hard, and when they played, they were extremely fit. And I think that was the case, but then just playing him on the Olympic team and getting to know him a little bit better, he really does a good job of developing relationships with players. And so, he does work you extremely hard, and he knows, he's probably going to have one of the fittest, if not the fittest team in the league. But he also demands that you play defense. And, and he's keen for the detail, but I think he's got that relationship as well. And you can see that he's obviously starting to work his magic there at the Hawks, and just getting the guys to believe. And they played very confident on the road to get 2 big wins.
Yeah, absolutely. The first one against the Bullets was impressive enough, but that Brisbane team, I think we'll see a lot of improvement from once they get Matt Hodgson and once Orlando Johnson as well is not injured. Hopefully he's not too badly hurt. But the win over the Taipans up in Cairns was massive for them. Very quickly, the results from round one, and we will go into these a little bit more in more detail shortly in our second segment. But first up, Friday night in Adelaide, Melbourne United just blew the Adelaide 36ers away in the second half. And it was remarkable because the 36ers were actually leading early in the third quarter, but Melbourne went on to win 89-65. Then on Saturday, as we touched on in Brisbane, the Hawks beat the Brisbane Bullets 90-84. Up in Cairns, also on Saturday, a thriller. The Cairns Taipans beat the Sydney Kings 87-86. And then on Sunday, double overtime between the Adelaide 36ers and the South East Melbourne Phoenix. And it was Josh Giddey who led the 36ers to the 116-108 win. And then Monday night, the Cairns Taipans couldn't back it up. It was the Hawks, too good up in Cairns, 92-76. And as we record this on Thursday, Shawn, because we will be releasing Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle each Thursday this season, and you'll also be able to hear us live on Sport FM every Thursday night as well as a result. Round 2 has got underway as well on Wednesday night, and it was the South East Melbourne Phoenix 89-83 over the Adelaide 36ers. Now, we'll touch on each game in a little bit more detail individually, but, gee, there was some standout performances, and the Taipans-Kings game on the buzzer, controversial finish. Adam Ford, in his first game as a head coach, was happy to come out afterwards and say that he thought the referees got the call wrong when Casper Ware wasn't called for a shooting foul at the end there, which could have won the game for the Kings. You have a look at Josh Giddey's performance on Sunday in the extra overtime. There was a lot to take away from those games.
Yeah, there was. I think that, most games were pretty competitive, pretty close. I guess what you would have expected. I don't think, I think a lot of people thought Cairns Taipans would go 2-0 and very well almost went 0-2 in that Sydney Kings game. I thought the Kings played well enough to get the win. And interesting to me, it's kind of that Casper Ware has kind of continued that form that we saw kind of more in the finals last year. So I'll be interested to see if they get him going and just get him back to that level of play that we've been accustomed to from him over the couple of years. But it just seems like he's lost a little bit of confidence in his shot, backing up into but it's only one game, so he's going to keep shooting, but he's got to really fire for that team, I think, to give him a great shot this season.
Yeah, I think you're right, and it's now it's unfortunately for him an ongoing trend, isn't it, dating back to last season. So he started the game pretty well on Saturday when he was actually taking the ball and getting some mid-range shots, but once he started to settle for the three again, it was similar to last season. He ended up going 1 of 9 from three-point land, and it probably wasn't the ideal shot for him to take at the end, for him to be taking a contested three-point ball, given the way he was shooting throughout the night.
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, you kind of, as a coach, you want to back your superstar, and Casper Ware has hit some big shots in the past, so it's not a case that he's not capable of. But sometimes you got to throw in the scenario where they haven't had the greatest game, and maybe you use him as a decoy. I like Vasiljevic in that scenario as well. I just think even though he's a rookie, the calmness he has, and he loves those big moments. So we'll be interested to see if they kind of use him maybe in some of those scenarios as well down the stretch.
Yeah, before we get to our discussion about the play of the week, I wanted to touch on the rookies. So a lot of the talk around the rookies coming into the season were surrounding the next stars, Josh Giddey and Mojave King up at Cairns, and even Justinian Jessup at the Hawks. Last week on the show here at Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle, both yourself and Damien Martin pointed out DJ Vasiljevic as your choice for Rookie of the Year, and I hadn't seen his name really pop up too many other places apart from you two, but if it wasn't for Josh Giddey's performance on Sunday, everyone would be talking about DJ right now, because his game on Saturday night for the Kings was outstanding for a rookie.
Yeah, I think probably Damo and I had some insider knowledge of him, just knowing that he came and trained with the Wildcats a few years ago, and you could tell even before he went to college, he was an outstanding player and he could have played NBL back then. And that's it's similar, I guess, to you'd say Giddey at the moment. Giddey can actually be a star in the NBL, and we saw that in round one. But I knew, there's maturity that happens over 3-4 years. But I think, to me, these next stars, the ones that can really shoot the basketball, have an advantage. Giddey, I think, just has a unique and special ability with his height and able to play point guard. Yeah. But I think Jessup and Vasiljevic are going to get a lot of minutes, a lot of looks, and so they're going to put up some impressive numbers.
How did you feel coming away from Sunday's game and watching what Josh Giddey did? Daniel Johnson had a monstrous game, but he'd fouled out once the game got to overtime. So the 36ers needed somebody to step up, and Josh Giddey started overtime with that breakaway dunk and fell flat on his face. And I think a lot of players would have let that finish their game, and obviously it meant that he didn't end up playing on Wednesday night through some post-concussion effects. But what did you make of his performance on Sunday in that overtime period? Because for an 18-year-old, the youngest player in the league, he was the reason that his team won the game.
Well, it was a spectacular fall on that dunk, I must say. I haven't seen too many players hit the ground with that force. So he'll remember that dunk for a long time. But it's something, it is pretty remarkable. I haven't seen an 18-year-old be able to come into the league probably since Joe Ingles. And you might even throw Newley in there a little bit as well, as far as just being able to come and have an impact. But the thing about Giddey is just composure. He never looks like he's out of second gear, but he's just getting to the rim with ease. He's making the right play. And, that's kind of the first time I've really seen him play for extended period of time. And I really liked what I see. And big raps to him. Great job. And I think he's going to have a big impact on Adelaide. And they're going to need him to have a big impact, because I'm not sure their imports are to the level that they were hoping for.
No, and we saw what happens to them without him last night against the Phoenix as well, where they really did struggle. So we'll get to that a little bit later. Now, we're going to have a Player of the Week award each week here on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle. And starting next week, we'll be letting our listeners decide that. And one of our lucky listeners will be receiving a special prize, and we'll announce the sponsor of that award next week here on the show. But for this week, Sean, I'll let you have the honours of picking the Player of the Week from round one. And it's not an easy decision, so I'll run through the candidates and let me know your thoughts. So first up, Daniel Johnson had a massive double for the 36ers. So first up, he had 29 points, 6 rebounds on Friday night and went 4 of 4 from three-point land. And then he backed it up on Sunday, 33 points, 4 rebounds, shot 11 of 14 from the field, 10 of 11 from the free throw line. Chris Goulding from Melbourne United, he had 16 points, 4 rebounds, 3 steals, 3 assists, and hit 5 3-pointers. His teammate Joe Lual-Achul was very impressive, 16 points and 12 rebounds. Sam Froling had 2 good games for the Hawks, 19 points and 4 rebounds. First up against Brisbane, and then backed it up with 11 points and 7 rebounds against the Taipans. But he had a couple of really impressive teammates. Tyler Harvey, 16 points, 3 rebounds in the first game, and then 25 points and 7 rebounds in the second. Justin Simon, 2 outstanding all-round games for the Hawks. First up, 13 points, 8 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals, including going 2 of 2 from three-point land. And then he backed it up with 10 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. The Taipans imports both had pretty solid games. Cam Oliver, he started with 12 points, 11 rebounds, 6 blocks, then backed it up with 16 points and 13 rebounds. His teammate Scott Machado started with 17 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, or I think it was 8 assists and 7 rebounds, and then 11 points, 11 assists, 4 rebounds, and 3 steals. Mitch Creek, his game on Sunday was outstanding despite the loss. 30 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. And his teammate Yanni Wetzel on debut, 24 points, 11 rebounds. Some impressive performances there, Sean. before I get you to pick, did I miss anybody? Did anyone else stand out that I might not have mentioned?
No, I think those were the candidates there. There was some. It's a tough one. There's not one that I look. Probably you kind of look at Daniel Johnson's stats and you say that was extremely impressive. And in normal weeks, I would probably give it to him. But I'm going to go with Justin Simon, and he may not have put the most points, but just his all-around game. And, he makes me love watching him play defense, kind of like the way Damian Martin does. Yeah. And I haven't seen too many imports be able to have an impact on the game. And I love just the charisma and the energy he displays when he makes those plays, and he lets everyone know about it. But, the play of the round was that block he had on Majok Dang where he up-faked him, sidestepped him. Simon jumped and then was able to recover again and block his shot after leaving on the first pump fake. So it was and that was a crucial part in the game. He went down and got a score. Absolutely. He scored on the other end. So, it was a 4-point play, but I just think I haven't seen an import play defense and have an impact like that probably since maybe Darnell Mee. And, you could probably go back to D-Mac. I didn't see a whole lot of him early on in his career, but, he was still stealing the ball off of me when he was 40. So it was, impressive. And, I'm excited to see him throughout the year. And I think he might be a Damian Martin favorite, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a great call. After Saturday night, I thought Cam Oliver with his 6 blocks might have been the standout for that Defensive Player of the Year award. But I think Justin Simon, after the first weekend, is probably leading that category to take out the first ever, what do we call it, the Damo? Do we call it the Damo?
What, the Defensive Player of the Year award? Yeah, I like it. Let's just call it the Damo.
Okay, so Justin Simon, our first player of the week here on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle for the 2021 NBL season. Now, we're going to have a Player of the Year award that we'll follow and announce throughout the season as well, Sean. So that means we'll be casting our votes each week of the season. We'll be doing a 5-4-3-2-1 system at the end of each round. Given you've given Justin Simon the Player of the Week award, does that mean he naturally takes out the 5 votes?
Yeah, he gets 5 votes. Daniel Johnson gets 4 votes. Tyler Harvey gets 3 votes. Mitch Creek 2, and Machado 1.
Tough to argue. I'm happy with that, Sean. So we'll follow that throughout the season, and we'll have a special prize to announce as well as we go along here on the show. So make sure you stay tuned for that, and Sean, it's going to be on your hands. So basically we're going to be announcing your MVP of the season, which is going to be something that hopefully somebody's pretty happy to win by the end of the season.
Well, I'm excited about that, and I always with Player of the Weeks, with MVPs, I always tend to go towards teams that won. I just think if you can make game-winning plays, game-winning performances, goes a long way, and that's probably a big reason why Simon's the Player of the Week for me this week.
Absolutely. Okay, that's our first segment done here on our show for this week, Sean. When we come back, we'll go through those games in round 1 in a little bit more detail, and of course later on we'll have our TABtouch preview, where we'll be joined by Damian Martin. Okay, Sean, back on Hoop 7's Basketball Hustle, and round 1 of the season got underway at the Adelaide Entertainment Centre back on Friday night. 75% capacity was allowed inside the building, and they pretty much filled that to capacity. So there was, I think, more than 6,500 people there in the building, so a good crowd, and especially in this current environment, to get that many people into a building is a good result. Fascinating game in the end. Adelaide led at half-time. Daniel Johnson hit a couple more threes to start the third quarter, but from there, Melbourne United blew them away. Adelaide looked very disappointing, but good performance from Melbourne. A lot of guys stepping up. We talked about Golding and Luol Achul before, but Shea Ili, Jock Landale, Uday Barber, they all had good games, and probably we saw from Melbourne what we expected to see, but probably more disappointing in the second half from Adelaide than what we might might have expected.
Yeah, after having a great first half, and to start the Connor Henry era there, at the Adelaide Entertainment Center in front of so many fans, where not a lot of places in the world are able to have full stadiums like that. So a disappointing start to the season for Adelaide, and I think that probably just the imports there were a bit of a letdown, and as outstanding form Daniel Johnson is in, he's going to need a lot more help. And we saw some glimpses from Giddy, but Melbourne United, a lot of people are picking them to be the title favorites, and they didn't play great, but they played well enough in the second half. You can tell they've just got that second gear where when they switch on defensively, and they've got a lot of weapons. They don't need guys like Golding to score 30, where Adelaide kind of need DJ to have big games. Golding can, he's going to have the occasion real big games, but if they get 4 or 5 guys in between 10 to 16 points, they're going to be a tough team to beat.
Yeah, absolutely. Then on Saturday, we had a doubleheader. First up, it was in Brisbane, and the Hawks beat the Bullets 90-84. We've touched on how good the imports were from the Hawks, but Sam Froling stepped up as well. There was a lot to like. Tough game for the Hawks, especially with their front court decimated once Matt Hodgson didn't play and Orlando Johnson went down early. Nathan Sobey still played well, 19 points. I thought Vic Law looked pretty good on debut, 17 points, 9 rebounds. I think Dremick and Froling showed that they'll be handy pickups. What did you come away from that game feeling?
Yeah, it felt like Brisbane started the game well. They had a decent lead there in the first quarter, and the Hawks felt like they were kind of figuring out how they were going to play. And, they didn't get great games from Jessup. He was pretty quiet that one. Harvey was okay, but, they just found a way to come together. And it feels like the Bullets are still kind of figuring out who's going to be their go-to player. Obviously, imports going down, injured. I like Law. I think he's going to be a solid pickup. I don't think he's going to set the league on fire, but and Sobey played well in stretches. I think they're just going to they feel like they're going to be a team that needs a few weeks to kind of figure out everyone's kind of roles.
Yeah, I think so too, and they'll be hoping that Hodgson gets back pretty soon, and that Johnson's not too badly hurt either. Now, the second game on Saturday, Cairns Taipans ended up beating the Kings 87-86. It felt like a game that was always going to be decided pretty much on the last play, and it was, as we touched on before. Casper Ware was fouled by Machado with a couple of seconds to go. They went to the video review, and it was decided it was a non-shooting foul. A little bit controversial, and in the end, they came out of that, and Casper took a pretty deep three, and it didn't fall, and the Taipans won. Aside from Casper, like we touched on earlier, what did you think of this one?
Well, look, I thought Sydney played a pretty good game, and I thought they probably deserved to win that. I think they would have given, certainly in the NBA, they probably would have given Casper those free throws. Yeah. It was very close and a tough call to make in that scenario, but I think he probably should have got those free throws. But credit to Cairns, they found a way to win at home, which we expected. But I think Cairns doesn't look great early, and they caught a lot of teams by surprise last year with how well they started the season. So it'll can they make those adjustments? They very easily could have been 0-2 after this week.
I was a little concerned watching from a Taipans point of view, thinking that last year they had such a chip on their shoulder. They all had a point to prove, and they had a remarkable season. Now this season they've been there and done it. Everyone's come back, and you have to be really careful in this situation where you don't expect to just be able to continue on where you left off. All of a sudden, you now become a mark team, and everyone's got a target. Everyone's chasing you, so they need to probably go up another level. Whereas they just looked like at times they were just expecting it to happen on Saturday night and again on Monday, which we'll touch on. Is that a concern? Because now it's a totally different mindset going from having that chip on your shoulder to now suddenly everyone having their target and setting themselves for you.
Yeah, I mean, it is always when you have success the previous year, you can kind of get into a little bit of a false sense of, I guess, complacency.
Mm.
But I think I think they might be missing their other import as well. I think that, I think that he really brought a lot of things to them last year. And
I think a
so,
lot of people forget, not only was DJ the Defensive Player of the Year, but he was also their leading scorer. So he scored more than both Oliver and Machado did last season.
yeah, and he just gave, Oliver was great in patches, and I think he was outstanding, but he didn't always have he wasn't consistently great, and they're just missing a little bit of defensive presence and be able to create their own shot. Jarek is more of a catch and shoot, Kwatnoy more of a catch and shoot rebounder, so someone else that can kind of go create other than Machado.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get to their game on Monday shortly as well. Before that, double overtime on Sunday in Adelaide. Another good crowd there, 6,600 people. And Daniel Johnson had 33 points up until just before the end of the fourth quarter. When he fouled out, I think a lot of people thought that the Phoenix might be able to snatch it. But, as we talked about, Josh Giddey put the 36ers on his back, and it took 2 overtime periods, but they ended up just getting over the line, 116 to 108. Important for Adelaide to bounce back from Friday to win the game, but I think South East Melbourne had every reason to think that they probably let one slip.
Yeah, I think they'll. From their point of view, you hope you don't look back at the end of the season and think, oh, if we could have got that opening game, might help us get into the finals or change the scenario. But impressive performances from Creek. He was outstanding. He's mid-season form, and as long as they can keep him healthy, he's going to be a tough cover all season. Yanni Wetzel, he came out of nowhere. That's a encouraging sign for them to get someone to fill Pino's shoes, and that's going to be a pretty big combination when Pino comes back healthy. So be able to give them a different look and not always have to play Creek at the 4, which sometimes he can be undersized, which gives them an advantage in some scenarios, but rebounding as well on the defensive end can hurt you with a smaller 4 like that. And Giddey was just outstanding in that overtime period, and just kind of the coming out party for him and welcoming him onto the world stage. And I'm sure there'll be quite a few NBA scouts if they can get a flight over here checking out Giddey to see where he's going to land in the draft next year potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. You make a good point about the rebounding too. The offensive rebounds, especially from Isaac Humphries, was massive in the end as well for Adelaide. Monday night to close out the round, and a brilliant performance. Let's not undersell it from the Hawks to go up to Cairns. They've been away from home since Boxing Day, and to still go and do this performance was fantastic. Not only did they beat Cairns in Cairns, but they did it emphatically, 92 to 76. Both imports, Harvey and Simon, were terrific again, but Justinian Jessup was brilliant. He went 24 points, didn't miss a 3-point attempt, and there was just so much to like from the Hawks.
Yeah, to me, that was probably the most impressive win of the season out of any team so far. To go into the Cairns, it's such a tough win up there, and to play their second game. That you're right, they've been away since Boxing Day, which can definitely have an effect on your performance. But when they get their guys shooting the ball, when Harvey and Jessup and then Solomon's playing defense, those 3 guys are just elite at what they do, and it just seems like everyone else is kind of buying into their role. Ogilvy playing his role solid. I like Froling. It's just it's going to be an exciting team to watch and how they gel over the season.
I think so too. And now there was one day in between, and then we got round 2 underway on Wednesday night, and it was the rematch from Sunday, and this time the South East Melbourne Phoenix got the win that they probably felt they deserved. They beat the 36ers 89 to 83. No Josh Giddey for Adelaide, and boy did they miss him. So we'll get to them in a little bit, but I liked what I saw from the Phoenix. They didn't get a massive game from Mitch Creek, who was in foul trouble, and Yanni Wetzel didn't back up his game either, so he had a quiet one. But Ben Moore probably stepped up a little bit in his with him being quiet. But to me, it was the backcourt which really stood out and probably showed how much Adelaide missed Josh Giddey, because clearly the difference in the game was the performances of Kiefer Sykes, Kyle Adnam, and even Adam Gibson with a cameo off the bench.
Yeah, Kiefer Sykes was just tremendous. I like what he brings. They needed a score, and he can shoot. He can put the ball on the floor, and that's going to be a tough matchup when you got a 1-4 on ball with Sykes and Creek. It's going to be interesting to see how teams play that, because obviously Adelaide didn't really figure out a great solution to it. Those two guys were outstanding on Wednesday night. So I think encouraging signs. Southeast Melbourne didn't want to go down 0-2. For them to split, they're probably upset they didn't get 2 wins. Would have been a great start to them, but they put themselves in a position to contend before they get some home games later on in the season. So right now those teams that are on the road, they just kind of want to stay around 500. So Southeast Melbourne Phoenix is doing what they need to do.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see them in action in Perth now on Sunday. To me, the 6-point margin flatters Adelaide. I thought they never really looked in the game pretty much the whole way, apart from when probably Daniel Johnson had a little bit of a purple patch in to start the second half. Up front, I think Humphreys and DJ were good, but outside of that, they didn't get a lot, and I think Keanu Pinder's going to struggle to give them the third big that they need, and their backcourt looks pretty shaky now with Donald Sloan not looking like anything like the player that we expected him to be.
No, I mean, for an NBA point guard with a lot of good raps coming about him, he's struggled in that first 3 ball games. It just hasn't looked like he's been able to beat his defender consistently. You and I talked about it before the game, how many times he slipped over, and just I don't know if it was 2 weeks in quarantine, and he's still trying to come back from that long trip over from America, but they're going to need him to really step up. They need 2 really good imports and possibly 1 elite import to kind of put them in top 4 finals contention. So it'll be interesting to see how long they stick with that if their games don't improve.
It's a great point. I mean, in this current environment, is it actually possible to make a change on an import? I mean, so to get a new player out here, they'd have to go through all sorts of quarantine and restrictions. I mean, is this almost a season where you just have to stick with what you've signed from the start of the season and hope for the best, or in this case, might it get to a point if Donald doesn't play well again on Friday night against the Breakers and they slip to 1-3, does that decision have to come very close to being made?
Well, you just have to, there's never one thing that kind of goes into that decision. You can't make it off 1 or 2 games, but the team should get a feel for what he's doing in training. Is it just a case of nerves or just finding his feet in the league? Some guys are that scenario, and a perfect example is Kevin Lish. It took him a few games just to kind of find his feet and get his confidence, and we know the type of career he had. But I'm not saying that that's the same scenario. Kevin Lish was coming in as a rookie, but it's a tough one. There's no. I think you just got to know, is he going to be the right fit long term for the season? Do you see your team a lot better later on in the year, or do you need to at least make one of those changes? I think probably they might need to at least make one of those changes early on if they don't get a few more wins here.
Yeah, not a lot of patience historically in Adelaide for underperforming players, so it'll be fascinating to watch. So that's our wrap of the games we've seen so far, Shawn. When we come back, we'll have our TABtouch preview, and we'll be joined by Damien Martin here on Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle. Okay, back here on Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle, and it's now time for our TABtouch preview. I'm very happy to be joined by Damien Martin now as well for this weekend. Thanks to TABtouch, our new partners here at Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle. We'll be raising some money for charity. So both Shawn Redhage and Damien Martin have chosen their charities. TABtouch have been happy enough to donate a sum of money for them to place a bet on each week and to pick some pick out some bets that they see as being worth putting their money on. So hopefully between them they can raise money for charity. Hopefully they can help you find a winner as well. So very excited by that. So it just seems such a natural fit. TABtouch, a proud West Australian company, and we've got Damien Martin and Shawn Redhage here on Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle, two of the all-time great Perth Wildcats NBL legends, 10 championships between them. They are the last 2 championship-winning captains of the Wildcats, so it's just a perfect fit. So thanks to TABtouch for their support. Now make sure you head to tabtouch.com.au to check out all of the odds. Not only do they have head-to-head betting on NBL games, but all of the different options and markets related to the games as well. Any sort of line betting, any sort of margin betting, any sort of total betting, and some individual player betting as well. So check it out at tabtouch.com.au. Thanks to TABtouch for their support. And now let's get stuck into the action with Damien Martin. Okay, I'm back here with Damien Martin here for our TABtouch preview, and there's no Shawn Redhage joining us either on his birthday here, Damo. Talk without him, and you can share some insights that you might not be willing to say if Shawn is with us, Damo. I
wish I'd known he wasn't going to be. I would have dug up some dirt. I would have called his wife Gretchen, spoken to his kids, and then come back here with don't worry about the tip. It just would have been all about the dirt on Shawn Redhage. But there's not much. I don't think there's much out there, unfortunately.
I will get to it shortly because it's a big day for him right now, which I'll talk about a bit later. But let's get straight into the preview, and then I've got a couple of things I want to talk to you about, Damo. So thanks to TABtouch, let's get straight into our tips for round 2. And it got underway last night. So we're recording on Thursday, and as we talked about earlier in the show, every Thursday afternoon we'll now be releasing this show. I'll take your word for it. Who would have you tipped between Adelaide and South East Melbourne last night?
Oh, to me, it was actually the toughest game of the round to pick. And because obviously I just didn't know if we're going to record yesterday or today, I never had to make a decision. I actually think I would have gone with Adelaide.
Yep.
Obviously Mitch Creek was amazing in round 1, 30 points. My question marks were around, Sykes obviously I think had 11 assists in round 1, but who was going to be the next best scorer was my big question. And then last night, funnily enough, Creek gets in a bit of foul trouble. I think gets to play 25 minutes, still finishes with, 15 points. He's very solid out there. But, Sykes, he was incredible. So he was fun to watch. And not just, with his scoring and obviously some big threes, in the fourth, but also his facilitating, his craft, just how crafty he was out there, but his patience. So down the stretch, they got the ball in his hands. They kept running pick and rolls, and they exploited it. So I actually, thought Adelaide were going to get the job done going into the game, but credit to South East, they were brilliant. They've not stopped the win, and they'll be very happy with it. And Adam living at the free throw line, being aggressive. There's a lot to like about the game. Dan Johnson was brilliant in a losing performance, so he's continued his form from round 1.
Absolutely. Okay, let's get into the rest of round 2 now, Damo. It starts Thursday night in Brisbane, a rematch from last week. So we've got the Brisbane Bullets, thanks to TABtouch, paying $1.92 against the Hawks, who are $1.88. This is a tough one because there's still no Deng Adel or Cam Bairstow for the Hawks.
Yeah, and they are 2-0. Going in without those guys, I think are going to be big for them. Normal would have lent towards Brisbane, but the reality is, I really like the way they played in the first round. They're going to be fit. They're going to be disciplined. They, Jessup, as a next-gen player, he just plays with so much confidence.
Yeah.
It's one thing to bring in quality imports, which they have, and you kind of expect that from a Gorgon coach team. But Jessup, I think, we saw glimpses of it in Game 2 when they played pre-season out here in Perth. But then to carry it into the regular season, I think he's a great pickup for them, and that'll continue. So I will go with Brisbane, but I'm very impressed with Illawarra, even without 2 players. I think he's going to play big minutes.
Sean's gone for the Bullets as well, but I think I'm sticking with the Hawks. I'll go the Hawks. Friday night, this is a really tricky one. The Adelaide 36ers, who, even though they got 1 win in double overtime, they haven't been great over the first 3 games. They need to bounce back, but they're up against the New Zealand Breakers, who we haven't seen yet and who have been away from home already for 6 or 7 weeks. So we've got the Sixers paying, thanks to TABtouch, $2. The Breakers $1.82. This is a tricky one.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to see Giddy return. I'm not sure if he was ruled out for both games this round or just
I think they're hoping he'll play.
Yeah, so I'd love to see Giddy out there, but I am excited to see, what the new look breakers look like. The Webster brothers teaming up together, Abercrombie still playing great basketball, and then they've recruited really well in the off-season. So I'm tipping the Breakers in this one. And, off the back of, like you said, 6 or 7 weeks already on the road, they'll just be chomping at the bit to start playing some basketball and take their mind off how much they probably prefer to be back home with, wives, kids, and family.
Yeah, I'll go with the Breakers as well. Then on Saturday, still in Cairns for the Taipans, they're hosting the Sydney Kings, and they played a cracker back in round one. The Taipans are paying $1.64, thanks to TABtouch. The Kings, $2.27.
Yeah, I'm going with Cairns in this one. They're a very good. But you got two great teams. I mean, we were one loss away from Cairns in the semi-finals last year, and this would have been a replay of last year's grand final. And I think both teams will be up there again. So obviously, both coming off losses. I think Cairns will just be able to rely a little bit more on their import, that 1-2 punch with Machado and Oliver. And I think some of their role players are really going to step up. We saw Jerry, the amount of passion he plays with, I think you're going to see more of that throughout the season. So I'm going to back Cairns in this one as well.
Yeah, Sean's gone with the Taipans as well, and I think I'll stick with the Taipans too. I think they'll be hungry to bounce back from dropping their first home game in a long time on Monday against the Hawks. Now, Sunday, big day for you, Damo, which I'll ask you about once we get our tips done. The Perth Wildcats at home, RAC Arena, against the South East Melbourne Phoenix. The Wildcats, $1.63 on TABtouch. The Phoenix at $2.30.
Oh, look, I just spoke up how impressed I was with South East, a few minutes ago, but I'm going with the Wildcats. They obviously, I'm biased. Everyone will know that about me. But, they have been, like New Zealand, they've just been getting ready for a game. It's been over 300 days since they last got to shoot a ball, in a game environment. So they're chomping at the bit to get out there. They'll unveil the banner and they'll just be ready to, get amongst it. And it's tough because South East do have 2 games under their belt already. There could be a little bit of rust with the Wildcats. So that's the biggest negativity going into it. But the reality is, home court advantage, a new season, some fresh players. I'll back them to get the job done.
Yeah, Sean's gone the Wildcats as well, and I will too. Last game of the round, Monday night. We're still in Cairns, so the Cairns Taipans up against Melbourne United. Taipans 212, United coming off that big round one win in Adelaide, 173.
Yeah, I'm going with Melbourne here. Like you said, Cairns don't lose often on their home court. They obviously dropped one last round. I'm backing them, on Saturday night against the Kings. But I was really impressed with Melbourne, the depth they have, the talent they've got, and they will be going into the game fresh. So, Cairns play a few nights earlier. I expect their studs to have to play big minutes because Sydney are a great team. So there could be a little bit of fatigue, albeit the home team hasn't travelled. So I'm going to go with Melbourne for a number of reasons, but most of which they're just playing a team that will be on the back of a doubleheader.
I'm going with Cairns, but Sean's gone with you with Melbourne as well. So it should be a cracking game between 2 finalists from last year. Okay, Damo, so that's round 2 done. Now, thanks to TABtouch, you and Sean are going to be going head-to-head each week and raising money for charities as well. And you've picked out some bets for this first week. So Sean is going to be raising his money for Lifeline WA throughout this season. And for this round 1, he's put his money on the Taipans to get within minus 3.5 against the Sydney Kings. Adelaide and New Zealand between them to score more than 180.5 points. And he's gone the Wildcats minus 3.5 against the Phoenix.
He's put some research into this. I've gone with your boring straight wins, but he's actually going plus and minus. Good on him.
He has. So if that comes through for Sean, thanks to TABtouch and the $50, he'll win for Lifeline WA $342.50. Now, as you said, you've gone a more traditional route. You've gone for, quite simply, the Breakers to beat the 36ers, the Taipans to beat the Kings, Melbourne to beat Cairns. If that all comes through, that'll be $258. And are you in a position to announce who you'll be raising your money for?
Yes, I'm lucky enough to do some work with a few foundations, but one of which is Global Roaming Pilbara Foundation. So we'll be trying to raise money there. And then I'm not sure if we can chop and change throughout the course of the year who we're raising for. But by the end of the year, if there is any positive money in there, then I'll probably divide it by a few. But right now, we'll go with Global Roaming.
Perfect, Damo. Thanks for that. Now, that preview is brought to you by TABtouch. And, of course, remember, if you are having a bet, please do so responsibly. Okay, Damo, so that's the business side of things taken care of. What was it like for the first time in, 14 years for you, that an NBL season was happening where you weren't either watching on, getting ready to play, sitting on the sidelines wishing you were out there? What was it like watching a season knowing that you're not going to be hitting the court at any point this season?
Yeah, it was really weird. The build-up to the regular season, to be honest, I wasn't missing the game. I can wake up pain-free, play with my kids. I kind of transitioned into life post-basketball quite quickly. Like, I literally retired, and then that afternoon I was at work. So that I didn't really notice, and I thought that's how I was going to feel regardless of when the season tipped off or not. And couldn't be further from the truth. Round one, I found myself, trying to make the effort to watch a few games. By the end of round one, I didn't miss, the last two games. And then last night, I was actually on the edge of my seat yelling at the screen, yelling at how I believe they should be defending plays. Why aren't they denying this guy? Why aren't they double teaming? And this is for two teams that I've never played for. Not many of my former teammates play for either of the teams. So of all the games to get into, I sat back going, this isn't what I was like as a player. I would have sort of watched it purely from a almost a coaching perspective, a scouting perspective. Instead, I was a fan yelling my opinion about what they should be doing, even though I physically can't do it anymore. And then I'm a little nervous how I will be on Sunday, where I've exchanged the basketball for a microphone, and I'm supposed to be in an unbiased position, commentating courtside for the Wildcats-South East Melbourne game. So I'll try and be as unbiased as possible, but who knows what's going to come out of my mouth.
I wanted to get your thoughts on how you're feeling about it. Sean's going to be there alongside you, so it's going to be fascinating to see the two of you there on our TV screens, and it's going to be fantastic. I'm looking forward to seeing what you two can provide for the broadcast. How are you feeling about it? Are you a little bit nervous knowing that you're not just on as a guest now, you're actually there as the host on an internationally broadcast game of basketball?
Don't say that. You're making me more nervous than I already am. I am really glad that for the first game I'll almost just be shadowing Sean. I'll see what he does, take his lead, and then I'll ask a few questions throughout the broadcast. And then, like you said, it will be weird asking the questions opposed to answering them. But I'm excited just to be out there and amongst it as close as I can without putting on the playing shoes and the Wildcats jersey. So I'm genuinely nervous. I'm not going to lie about that, and I'll probably stumble on a few words and you'll be able to notice it across the broadcast. But I'm excited as well, and I'm just grateful that I got a call about a week ago asking if I would be interested in participating. So I'll see how I go. If I get fired after round one, then hey, at least I had a try. But I very much am grateful that I can do the game one with a former teammate and a good friend, and he's already put his hand up and said let's get together and I can help you as much as you need. So hopefully Sunday goes smoothly.
Now also the championship banner will be getting raised as well, and you're still the captain of that team. That must be an exciting occasion, and probably the first time you've ever actually got to enjoy it, because every other time you've actually been taking part in the game while the banner has been raised.
Yeah, a lot of the time they've unveiled it while we're in the locker room having our final chat with Trev. So to be out there, see the banner unveiled, and straight away you're just going to relive. For me, it'll be reliving, 12 years at the Wildcats, not just that one championship year. But every season is special for different reasons. Every season, every team goes through adversities, highs and lows, but through the one team that gets to have that banner with their name on it is why you play the game. So I'll be out there looking forward to being a part of the Red Army, joining the commentary team and seeing that banner fall down, number 10 for the club.
Now, another thing quickly from round one, Sean and I have dubbed it the Damo, so the Best Defensive Player Award, now named in your honour. Who stood out in the Damo for you? I thought after Saturday night, Cam Oliver was the standout with his 6 blocks, but by the end of the weekend, I thought clearly Justin Simon for his 2 games at the Hawks, and Sean mentioned earlier on the show that his influence on the defensive end reminded him of the influence that you had on games. Who stood out in the Damo for you?
Yeah, no, you've absolutely mentioned him straight off the top. When I was watching Illawarra play, and the thing that amazed me was his willingness to go and make the reads and back himself to do it. Sometimes you don't want players going outside of the system, at either end. But then there's some players that you're happy to do it. And, most people think that's a comment that regarding the offensive end. So, for example, we might run a play, or the Wildcats might run a play. I've probably got to stop saying we are. It's hard to move on. But the Wildcats will run a play. And if Bryce sees something that he likes, you've got every single player wearing a Wildcats jersey, coaching staff included, happy to back him to make that read. At the defensive end, there are some players who have that green light from their coaches and from their teammates. And, I just thought the reads that were made in in the Illawarra game in the fourth quarter. I mean, that block shot into, jumping back up, grabbing it, going down, scoring. That was a big play,
Yeah, it was.
and it's hard not to get caught up in that. And you want to be able to relive that and replicate that moment. So you do whatever it takes to be able to feel that hype, feel that environment. So that's why those big plays usually generate 4, 6, 8, 10-point runs. So it wasn't just the 2 points he created or, a potential 4-point turnaround by blocking the shot and then scoring, but it's what happens at the back end of that. And I was very, very impressed with his game at both ends, but in particular defensively. Oliver, obviously, like you mentioned, 6 blocks. I think there was a few guys that stood out, but none more so than those two.
Yeah, totally agree. Now, before we let you go, Damo, as we record this now and release the show, it's a 40th birthday for Shawn Redhage. It's a big occasion. It's remarkable to think that you joined him as a teammate 12 years ago, and it's amazing to see. I imagine you were a little bit daunted by being his teammate at first, because at that point he had earned his scoring machine nickname on the back of being just that. I mean, he was a great scorer, but not necessarily someone that brought his teammates into the game a lot. But that changed in that first season. That's why you won the championship. His scoring went down a little bit, but he became a much better all-round player, and you would have seen that. And obviously, the rest of his career, you were there as his teammate, and you had an amazing time with him. When you reflect on your journey with Shawn as we celebrate his 40th birthday, what comes to mind?
He was the ultimate elite player in regards to his professionalism. So professional means you just get paid to do it. Most people have a profession, but to be elite means you get the utmost out of your ability. Yeah. And he did every single cliche. I think I've mentioned this before. Every single cliche you've heard of. So got to weights early, lifted heavily, got to training early, worked on his game, trained hard during team training, finished team training, worked on his game again for another 45 minutes to an hour. Stretching, visualization, sports psychology, diet, good sleep, yada, yada, yada. He did it every single day, not after a loss, not just when TV was there or the media crew, not just before semi-finals, every day. I remember during his last season where he wasn't playing big minutes whatsoever, we played a game on the Friday. He played about 3 minutes. We were flying out to New Zealand on the Saturday. I was injured at the time, so I had to come in for a workout Saturday morning. I get to training Saturday morning. He's already there getting shots up because he wanted to get shots up just in case he gets called, to go and play in New Zealand the following day. I'm just like, this was this guy, day one to literally the last day he was wearing a Wildcats uniform. And what he did, 2, 3, 4 guys started to implement and replicate, and that turned into 7, 8, 9. And that's where the culture of the club came from the work ethic. For me, with Shawn, and whether he learned that from college coaches, whether it was self-driven, whether it was former Wildcats players, I'm not sure. But his nickname in college at Arizona State was Charlie Hustle. So we may call him the scoring machine out here, but Charlie Hustle I love, and he is. He just would get after everything, dive on this basketball, try and make big play after big play. And we mentioned the championship banner getting unveiled from the rafters, on Sunday, and I dare say at some stage throughout the season we'll see, the number 42 hanging from the rafters as a retired number, and deservedly so.
Yeah, thank goodness he didn't stay being a soccer goalkeeper, which he was when he was younger, and thank God he got away from those cornfields in Nebraska.
Mate, he hates passing, so imagine him as a goalkeeper. He'd stop the goal, then he'd turn around and kick it, or he'd try and shoot from full end of the field. So, no, I think he chose the right sport. I mean, hated looking at the basketball when he had a post move. Hated looking at when he was making a post move. Would look at his feet, jump and turn in the air, and then find the ring as he's in the air. But, his unique moves is why he was so crafty and got to play for so long, combined with, obviously his 3-point shot, his basketball IQ. But, yeah, he was a great teammate and a hell of a player.
And he's still a teammate of yours, Damo. We're still doing this show together, and you're going to be joining him on Sunday. So I hope you enjoy that. We all look forward to seeing what you can come up with on our TV screens. And thanks for joining us, and we'll be back here on the TABtouch preview next week.
No, looking forward to it. I'm going to have to come up with something a little bit more crafty with these multis you spoke of, because if Shawnee gets up, even if we both win, he's about $100 already ahead of me. So I might have to take a note out of his book and just, I don't know what he does. He might just open up a link and guess. But hey, we'll see what happens.
Okay, time to wrap up the show here this week, Shawn, on Hoop 7's basketball hustle. There's been plenty to dissect, plenty to talk about already. But the biggest thing out of this show this week is the fact that we're recording here on Thursday. We're releasing the show on Thursday. Now, before we get to anything else, I've got something just very quickly to play for you, Shawn. That's right. It's your birthday, Shawn. If anyone hasn't already picked that up. Now I've hit my button and I actually don't know how to stop it, Shawn. So we're going to have that music playing in the background right now. But happy birthday to you! And it's not just any old ordinary birthday, is it? It's a milestone day for you.
Yeah, I turned the big 40, so officially over the hill. And, I don't feel 40, but I'll have to see how I feel later in the day. I told the campers that camp this week that when you get over 40, you're no longer allowed to dunk. So I might have to get out on the court when I'm coaching my son a little bit later on and see if I can still throw one down.
It's a big milestone. Do you feel any different now that you've got a 4 in front of your name or in front of your age?
Look, I don't think you do feel any different, but I'm sure, probably in more denial than anything. And, you still feel like I'm that 22-year-old that just moved over here from Nebraska, living in a beautiful part of the world in Perth, Australia.
That's what I wanted to ask about. I mean, this is the sort of time where you can reflect a little bit and you touched on it then, half a lifetime ago, you probably had never heard of Australia. All of a sudden, you've had one of the greatest careers in NBL history. You're one of the all-time great Perth Wildcats players. You ended up representing Australia at the Olympic Games, and more importantly, you've ended up with Gretchen raising your family here with Dylan and Hayley. You've become a great Perth citizen and a great Australian citizen, and this is obviously your home. You've now started up a successful business with Redhage Basketball beyond your playing career. It's a story that probably should be told in a book one day, Shawn. But summing it up quickly now, it's been a remarkable journey to get to this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of highs there that you can be proud of, and obviously there's some struggles along the way. But you don't get there unless you face a little bit of adversity. So it's I just kind of wake up and pinch myself every day that I'm living in such a great place, being able to impact so many lives, and got to play with the Perth Wildcats, arguably with one of, if not the best sporting organization in Australia in the history that they've had. So there's a lot to be thankful for, and I have great, amazing wife, two fabulous kids, and it's almost a dream come true, and looking forward to the next 40 years.
Now, just before we move on, because I know you don't like talking about personal things like this too much, how does the Scoring Machine celebrate his 40th birthday?
Well, I got up, got a little workout in, so in my little makeshift home gym that I set up when COVID hit, and filled with Redhage basketball T-shirts all around. So I need to give out some of those so I can clear a little bit more space to have a little bit more workout room. But probably head to the beach. Might pop down for a cinnamon roll to celebrate, and then I got some barbecue pulled pork sandwiches to munch on later on with the family. So and then on the basketball court, my son's got a trial tonight that I'm the coach of the team, so I've got to run that as well. So it's going to be a full day with a lot of things that I love: working out, beach, family, and basketball. So I can't complain.
No, sounds perfect, Shawn. So happy birthday to you for that, and I hope you enjoy the day. Now, let's wrap up the show as well. I'll sign off for this week here on Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle. We'll keep a close eye on the multi-bets, thanks to TABtouch, that both you and Damo have picked out, and see what sort of money you can raise for you, for Lifeline WA, and Damo for the Global Roaming Pilbara Foundation. So that's going to be fascinating to follow. We'll look forward to seeing both of you and your smiley faces on our TV screens on Sunday at RAC Arena. So for Hoops Heaven's Basketball Hustle this week, I'm Chris Pike, and I'll sign off and leave you with the birthday boy, the Scoring Machine, Shawn Redhage.
Well, thanks, Pikey. Yes, it is. I'm looking forward to Sunday. Going to have 7,500 Wildcat fans cheering on their team, and just to see NBL basketball back after, I guess, almost 10 months here in January, late January, is going to be a special moment. And I'm excited to kind of get those nerves and that feeling of being in a live NBL basketball event. It's going to be fun, and to do that next to Damian Martin on his debut as commentary is going to be exciting and memorable as well.